Okay, so we're going to start in chapter 10, section 1, which is on the Roman world. So let's look at the standard and objectives for this first section. Standard 8.6 trace the expansion of the Roman Republic and its transformation into an empire, including key geographic, political, and economic elements. The objectives discuss the geography of Italy, analyze the origins of Rome, evaluate what led to the origins of the Roman Republic. That's what's going to be in section 1. Now, a little bit about the geography of Italy. One, it's a peninsula in southern Europe. It is probably one of the most well-known peninsulas in the world. And if you remember from last year in geography, a peninsula is surrounded on three sides by water. Florida is another example of a peninsula. It has two major mountain ranges, the Alps and the Apennines. These are the two major mountain ranges in Italy. It's not flat. The land is not mountainous. The land that's not mountainous is hilly, meaning that even the areas that's not very, that doesn't have a lot of mountains and stuff on it, is still very hilly. This kind of shows you an example of what I'm talking about here in terms of a peninsula. This is Italy, surrounded on three sides by water. People identify as looking like a boot. You can kind of tell here looking at it that looks like maybe there's a heel of a boot, a toe, and then this is kind of like, the main part of the boot. So this is what Italy's map looks like. Rome's legendary origins. No written record exists for Rome's early history. The only thing we have to go by is the ruins that were left behind to give us an idea how they lived. The Romans would tell stories about great heroes and kings who built their city. Now, like in many things in history, we really don't know a lot about what happened with these people. We don't know a lot about their history because we wasn't there. That's a key in history. If we're not there, we don't know what happens. But based on the evidence of things that we have, and based on things that people have left behind, we can kind of get an idea how we believe these people lived. And so the Romans would tell great stories about heroes and kings that built their city. Now, the first person we're going to talk about here is Aeneas. Now, Aeneas is a Trojan War hero that some Romans believe started Rome. He is the hero from the story of the Aeneid. And according to the Aeneid, when Aeneas entered Italy, he found a group of people living there, and he formed an alliance with the people called the Latins. Now, we're going to learn that Latin is the language that the Roman people speak. And so it's believed that this comes from this group of people, the Latins. And so when Aeneas entered Italy, he found this group of people. He married the daughter of the Latin king and his son Aeneas. He named his son the same thing he was. Don't get confused. They got the same name. And their descendants became prominent rulers in Italy. Now, this is part of the legends that they passed down. I told you that we don't have a lot of evidence about things that they had. We can see who was in control, but we have the things that's left behind in different aspects, whether it be ruins or whatever. And it shows us that they believe that it comes with Aeneas. Now, some of these descendants are Romulus and Remus, and that's where we're going to really kind of kick off these origin stories, is with Romulus and Remus. According to Roman legend, the founders of Rome were Romulus and Remus, who were the descendants of Aeneas. While they were babies, they were put into baskets and thrown into the Tiber River, where they were cared for by a wolf and eventually adopted by a shepherd. When they grew up, they made a city where the wolf had rescued them. So, this story is very familiar if you are part of the Judeo-Christian belief system, or if part of the belief system of Christianity, Judaism, things like that, because in this story of Moses, it's very similar. You have where these people were thrown into the Tiber River and they were found. Now, in the story of Moses, of course, he's found by the daughter of Pharaoh, but in this situation, they're found by a she-wolf who nurses them until they're a little bit older, until they're healthy, where a shepherd and his wife finds them They adopt them, they bring them in, and they raise them up as their children. When they grew up, they went to the location where the wolf had rescued them, and they built a city there. When they were building the city, Remus mocked the idea of Romulus, so Romulus killed him and named the city Rome after himself. Now, Romulus and Remus, just kind of note something about them. Romulus killed his brother and named Rome after himself. Hence, the first three letters of his name is R-O-M, as in R-O-M is in Rome. And Remus was killed for mocking his brother. Now, it's believed what happens here is that when they go to build a city, they're trying to come up with a name. And Remus is like, let's name it Rome. And Romulus is like, no, that's a stupid name. Let's name it Rome. And so they kind of argue over the name of the city and how they're going to do the city and different things like that, how it's going to be set up, to the point that Romulus kills his brother Remus for mocking him. And again, you look at the Christian parallels of Cain and Abel. Same kind of situation here. And so you see brothers that kill each other, or one brother that kills the other one, in an origin story. And so you see some comparison here between early Christian and Jewish teachings and the early history of Rome. And so you see this kind of idea here that it's believed that they played a key role in the development of the city of Rome, with Rome taking on the name of Romulus as its name. Historians believe Romulus was the first king of Rome, taking the throne in 753 BC, although many modern historians believe Rome could have been 50 years or so before or after that date. It could have been 753, it could have been 803, or it could have been 703. Somewhere in that 100-year span, they believe is when the city of Rome originated. Records indicate that 7 kings ruled the city, but not all of them were Roman. The last 3 were Etruscan kings who lived in Italy before Rome was founded. These are some of the people who lived in Italy before the foundation of Rome. The Etruscan kings made huge contributions to Rome, including huge temples and the first sewer in Rome. The last Roman king was cruel and killed his own advisors. So we see that these kings made huge contributions to Rome, but the last one was very cruel and killed his advisors. So a group of nobles rose up against him and created a new form of government. This would be a republic. Now, republics were people elect leaders to govern them. And the Roman Republic was created in 509 BC. And so we're looking here at the foundation of the Roman Republic. Now, the Roman Republic is going to be really important because this is where we get a lot of the same ideas that the Founding Fathers did when they created our country. If you remember back in civics from last year, we talked about the foundation of our country. And we talked about the fact that the Founding Fathers looked at the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, and they took some of these concepts that they came up with, along with some other people from the ancient world and some great philosophical thinkers of the time, and they crafted our government based off of this. And so the Roman Republic is key in the development of the republic that we have today, of the United States of America. So it was the republic was with leaders to govern them. It was created in 509 BC. It was not a democracy, though, with the wealthy and powerful people electing all the leaders and making all the decisions. So it wasn't exactly like our government. We just based a lot of the same concepts off of this. But it was it wasn't a democracy because the rich and powerful put people into power that they wanted to represent them. The idea of a republic is a representative form of government where you have people that represent you in the government. Well, when the rich people are making all the decisions, it doesn't represent everybody. It just represents them. This gives you an idea about the Roman Republic and the kind of the timeline. And we're going to get into this over the course of this chapter because this chapter is on the Roman Republic. We're going to end the Roman Republic in chapter 11, and we're going to get into the history of the Roman Empire at that point. So Rome was founded somewhere around 753 BC. It becomes a republic around 509 BC. In 218 BC, Hannibal invades Italy, and we'll get talking about that. Julius Caesar becomes the dictator of Rome in 45 BC. He's assassinated in 44 BC, and the Roman Republic ends in 27 BC. And we'll kind of get into that when we talk about Octavian and Mark Antony and people like that. So we'll get into that, though, in the next chapter. But just kind of gives you a timeline of this chapter. As soon as Rome became a republic, they fought in wars for about 50 years, winning most, but losing many lives and properties. And this is going to be the time of the dictators. These are rulers with almost absolute power who would rule during times of war. They could stay in power 6 months to limit their power. At the end of 6 months, they had to give their power up. But they would have absolute power during this time. Now, it was during like a state of emergency, like if there was a war going on, that's when they would give them this power. They didn't just have it all the time. Similar to how our president for 6 months can send troops different places without congressional approval. But after 6 months, they got to come back because they got to have congressional approval to do that. The president can't go and just declare war. That's the job of Congress. So it's similar to this. It limits the power. We have checks and balances here, but the dictator would be limited in their power. Cincinnatus is one of Rome's famous dictators, and this is where Cincinnati is in Cincinnati, Ohio. It gets its name. It's from Cincinnatus. He was a farmer-made dictator to fight an army that caused the Romans problems. He resigned as dictator and returned to his farm before his term ran out. Now, this is what's important about Cincinnatus. He was such a great leader that before his term even ran up, he gave his power back up. Most people didn't do this. Most people stayed on for the 6 months, and then they relinquished their power. But Cincinnatus said, hey, I'm done. I'm going back to the farm. Y'all can have it. And because of this, he's compared to George Washington, our first president, who did something similar. George Washington said, hey, I'm going back to Mount Vernon, and my time's up. I've served my terms. I've served my country, and I'm gone now. And this is a lot of the same comparison here between Cincinnatus and George Washington when you look at the character traits. Roman society was divided up into 2 groups within Rome. You have the plebeians, which was the common people, and the patricians, which was the nobles. Now, the patricians are going to be a lot less in number than the plebeians, and it's going to come back to really to bottom. And you see here that this is kind of the social structure that we have. You have this right here, which would be the slave. The esclave or esclave would be the slave. Libertos or libertos would be the people that were free but not citizens. The plebeians or the clientes, which would be the regular people that were citizens. The nobilitas, or the patricius, or the patricians, they were the nobles. And then you have the senatores, or the nobiles, which was the senators. And that kind of gives you the idea of Roman citizenship and this kind of social structure. The plebeians were peasants, craftspeople, traders, and other workers. They outnumbered the patricians, but they couldn't vote. They didn't have any power. So in 494 BC, the plebeians formed a council and elected their own officials, which frightened the patricians and led to a new form of government. So what we see here is you have the dictators and people like that are still in control. The plebeians are saying, like in colonial days, no taxation without representation. If you're not going to represent us, we're going to form our own form of government. And the patricians are like, you know what, these people have a lot of numbers. So maybe we need to back off a little bit and give them a little bit to go with. So that brings us to the end of this first section. We discussed the geography of Italy. It's a peninsula. It's on the Mediterranean Sea. We analyzed the origins of Rome with Aeneas and Romulus and Remus. That's these origin stories of heroes that led to the kings and the Etruscan kings that led up to the foundation of what will become the Republic. And evaluate what events led to the origins of the Roman Republic. And we did that, talking about the social structure and kind of how that started to fall apart. So that is section 1.